Still thinking. Yeah, we're live now. So welcome. We've got Simon Cox from Property Design Studio, myself from New Way Growth, and we're talking time management tips for productivity. Now, the thing for me is time management is simply life management, in my opinion. You can manage your emotions, your energy. You can manage your productivity. You can manage your priorities. You can manage the actions you do, the actions you don't do, the actions you delegate. You manage what you accept or reject in your life. And it is simple as that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, looking forward to this one. I can assure you, I absolutely love time saving, whatever we can do to save time. But also, people say you can't buy time. I tell you what, it's out there. It's free. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's how you manage it and how you utilize it at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, he's saying, I'm just to apologise. It's saying it's having trouble streaming to LinkedIn, so we'll leave it. Yes, it is. For me, I think it's one of those. So many people come to me and say, "I ain't got enough time. I ain't got enough time," and you have. It's understanding where you're spending your time and what you're spending your time on. And I'm an ex-time study engineer, so I'll come back to that. We use, and I think I've spoke to you before around it in activity sampling, an old time study technique. And I wrote down here, just very quickly around some of the things you could do. So you could just get it onto Excel, create a column of Monday to Sunday if you do it, or Monday to Friday, whichever one you want to do, and then just do 15-minute sort of like chunks across the timeline, across the top for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 hours, whatever you want to do. And then just code in, start your day off and say, where you're working, are you working? Are you resting? Are you on email? Are you in a meeting? Are you on social media? You might as well just put a W, an R, an S, or whatever it is. And do that over the week and analyze where your time is being spent. And I guarantee you will find that you are wasting time in certain areas. You will find that you are spending probably a lot of time on social media, because that's what I used to do. And that time goes quick and it's lost, it's gone. So it is around managing that time and breaking it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the spreadsheet. I mean, obviously, I forecast my time, so I'm really anal with it. But do you know what? It's taught me a lot to do it as well, because it's made me focus on certain areas, and you think that's not worth doing. It's not worth doing. So you move on and you find out where to invest your time in different areas. But also, it's given me a chance to actually look at what I am involved in, and it makes you realize how many hours a week you're actually dedicating towards X amount of work or X amount of projects or whatever. And it can be fascinating. So I recommend it to anybody to give it a go, to do it.
I do, yeah. And Simon showed me a spreadsheet, and I mean, I'm pretty into this time management and productivity. That one really did surprise the hell out of me on that one. It's a massive spreadsheet, but very, very good, very clear on where his time was going and how he could maximize his time. Which then brings me on, and we've just discussed this around this old pebble and the jar analogy. We're talking around tips, we're talking around the management tips. And this is you may have heard it, the story of the teacher teaching a class, and he fills a jar with rocks and asks the class if the jar was full. They all say yes. The teacher then tipped some small pebbles in, shook the jar so the pebbles went into all the gaps and filled the gaps between the rocks, and then asks again, is the jar full? The class replies, yes. The teacher then got some sand, tipped the sand in and filled up all the tiny little gaps between the rocks and the pebbles. He then asked again, is the jar full? They all replied, yes. Teacher agreed and said, the jar represents your life. The rocks are the equivalent to the most important projects, objectives, and experiences you have in life, such as spending time with family, health, etc. The pebbles represent the things in life that matter, but you could live without, like your career or business, house, hobbies, and friendships. All give meaning to your life, but they're not critical. And the sand represents the remaining filler things in your life, material possessions, TV, PlayStation, admin tasks. These don't really mean much, but often consume or waste far too much for too little happiness or fulfillment. Sorry, not far for. Now, the metaphor around this is using what we tend to do is fill the jar full of sand, all the low menial sort of tasks, and we fill it full so we can't fit in any of the significant important projects and experiences. And we need to adjust that. You know, from that side and some of it probably is about procrastination on this, in leaving the big rocks out and filling it with all the menial stuff. What do you think? You've come across that analogy before, anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, I've heard it a couple of times, and I think it's a great analogy. Yeah, obviously the sand is where I love to see, because obviously that can be the variables as well as to where it goes around the rocks, around the big rocks. But I think it's right. I mean, I think any form of analogy like that helps you focus and helps you think about things differently, and how you can then, you know, take that into your life and see where it actually goes. So I think it's great.
Do you use those sort of that sort of structure in when you look at your actions? Because I use a number. I do. There's a number of different techniques I use. The rocks and the pebbles being one of them. What about yourself?
What I look at is what needs to be done. If it holds somebody else up, get it done quicker. That's what I always look at. If it's important and it's a deadline, obviously that's going to have you need to have a focus on it. If it's just something I think, oh, do you know what? I can do that anywhere in the world. And I'll admit this, okay? I'll admit it. I didn't update our social media the other day, and I thought, oh, no, I haven't done it. So I did it from the hot tub. Well, I'll be honest, I did it in the hot tub, because I think at the end of the day, you know, it still needs to be done, but it can be done from there. I was itching to get in the hot tub. And that's the beauty of your social media. Provided you know where the content is, you can. That's the kind of thing you can fit around some of the bigger projects that you have got. So, I mean, for us, obviously, you know, when we're working with a client, that's a big thing for us to be involved with. If we're at a network meeting or an exhibition or an event, it's a big thing to be involved with. Some of those little things can be done at any time, at any point throughout the day, even if it's just, you know, paying a bill. You can do it from your phone these days. You know, fit it in around the bigger things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is where, again, one of the most underutilized techniques, but again, probably one of the most powerful, is the 80-20 rule. So if you've taken you've got the, you know, take the analogy with the jars and the rocks, is if you've got your list of items on your big ticket items that you're trying to look, so revenue generating tasks or you know, health or anything like that, if you 80-20 it, and what we say though by that is 20% of those actions, 20% of those things that you've got listed down will deliver 80% of the results. So if you can really dive in and find those top 20% and work on those first, jobs are good. And really, you know, and they, you know, I suppose in some ways I think it's Brian Tracy is saying some of those will be your eat the frog ones that you start off with first thing in the morning. I don't generally do that. I'd go my emails, the Eisenhower matrix stuff first, answer the emails that I find that I need to then, and then I'll kick in with my biggest thing first, really, from that side. What about you on? Do you do 80-20?
I'm slightly different on that respect when it comes to emails. The laptop goes on first thing in the morning, and I'll deal with the first email that comes in. You know, I deal with it, just work straight through them, and I know they're done. But I'm really responsive on that anyway. So the minute an email comes in, we don't have a zero inbox policy, but we do have data, you know, that we have to, you know, store in various folders and things like that. But what I look at is if we can deal with an email straight away, you know, even if it's just an acknowledgement back to somebody, we'll do that, because in the day it's something that's there overnight. Normally, first thing in the morning, after the emails, you know, I'm straight onto a little bit of social, see what's going on in the world, eat a bit of breakfast, and have a little scan through the news websites and things. But most of the time, I think, yeah, I mean, 80-20, you say about 20% of or 80% of your results will come from 20% of your actions. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, my role here is to focus on the marketing. I know where our marketing comes from, and it comes from 20% of those actions, which is obviously the networks and, you know, the word of mouth. So
yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I tend to do is with the planning, I suppose, and we did a session on planning a couple of weeks back, didn't we? Is when I plan, I always plan in advance. So whether that's the day, the week, the month, I always plan everything. So I've got the list now. I've got the priorities that I'm going to work on. I then plan that the night before, or I plan the week or I plan the month. So I know what I'm going to be working and when I'm going to be working it on. What about yourself? Anything? Do you plan the night before, or do you just go? Because some people do, some people don't. But they say that around this is that for every minute spent on planning is 10 minutes saved on execution. So you can actually save around about 2 hours a day based on being planning the night before.
Yeah, it's interesting. Planning, to me, I love planning. I love forecasting. I love measuring growth and things like that through what we've done. So for me, I think certainly planning. I mean, allocating time for me is key. The minute somebody says to me, you know, oh, we've got a meeting or an exhibition or an event coming up in 2 months' time, I want to know the start, finish, and obviously the date, because obviously it needs to go in the diary. And I think, you know, we're always ploughing things in the diary for like you know, a month, 2 months, 3 months in advance, so we know where things are at. What drives me mad is what happened to me today. Is when somebody says to me, "Oh, hi, what are you doing tomorrow? Why don't you come to this event?" And I'm like, "A, thanks for letting me know the day before. Secondly, was I that much of an afterthought? And thirdly, don't you think I've actually planned something to do tomorrow? Because you know, if it was that good an event, why didn't you tell me about it about 2 months ago when you started planning it yourself?" So
that's bad marketing on their point from that point of view.
Drives me potty, I can assure you. But there we go.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, again, on that, you know, even when somebody comes in and says, "Oh, can you do this? Can you do that?" Is that again, you rule your world. So learn to say no. Like, you know, from that we were just saying there, whilst you're working on revenue generating tasks or cognitive projects, make sure you turn all notifications off. You know, you don't answer the phone, you have phone switched off, or leave the phone in the other room. Don't respond to emails. You know, and learn to delegate. You know, again, I've mentioned the Eisenhower matrix, which is the urgent versus important. Delegate tasks to a VAPA or a PA, but learn to say no. Yes, but not now. You know, I can't. Can we reschedule? You know, that's another thing for me from time management productivity. There's a tendency is that we tend to say yes. We don't like saying no. Can we reschedule? And I must admit, I do get into that. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. I said that on. I think I said that on some networking this week. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you've had to learn to say no. I mean, the amount of things that I get asked to get involved with, because I network a lot. Normally, I get approached by the odd multi-level marketing company and say that is there any chance you can help and get involved. I'm like, no, I haven't got the time. I have got the time, but for me, it's not where I want to be, to be fair. But also, I think in saying no, it's actually a strength and a quality to actually be able to say no, because it actually shows you know what you actually want to, you know, be around and not what you want to be around. So for me, yeah, I've always said no to people if I don't think it's something that fits with me, fits with our ethos and our ethics or values. Then we'll say no. If you think it's me wasted time, it's a no. You know, simple as that.
The other thing that just come to my head there is around it, on that activity sampling I was talking around this morning, really analysing and understanding your time, is you also get to know you can start to see patterns within that, as when you're good at doing your cognitive work or your more high energy activities in certain times of the day, which I think you know sort of comes around to that circadian rhythm, that sleep wake cycle. So you can then start planning in when you are best doing those income generating tasks or the high priority tasks. So that's another thing that you can get out of doing that activity sampling, that you know really can help on productivity and time management. I forgot to mention that. I just thought of that. It's not something that everybody does. Anything else from time management, productivity tips, or anything like that? I mean, the big one is time blocking, which I know you use as well.
Yeah, time blocking is key, even if it's time blocking for ourselves. I think for me as well, with time management, if you can turn the power off and still work, you know, it's a great thing to be able to be in that position. You know, find a way around things so that you can save time in case, you know, your energy does stop working. How are you going to operate the business? So, you know, we've tried and tested a number of routines. I think inside 10 minutes one day we were back up and running and able to access your data that we needed. I think the big thing for me, especially to smaller businesses in saving time, you know, planning your marketing is key. But also, if you can, you know, schedule some of your social media posts, for instance, you know, an example, then it saves you time later on thinking, oh, I haven't done that, and panicking. You just block time out. I think you've mentioned this about you know, zigzagging around and hot stepping or being a grasshopper or whatever. But I think the key for me is hyperlinks in spreadsheets, and I use a lot of spreadsheets with hyperlinks. So for me, I've got a brain like a sieve. I can literally put it into the spreadsheet, and I've got all the hyperlinks in that spreadsheet of what I want. Now I can then filter the data as well, so I can actually get to where I want to get to very quickly, and be able to you know, get to the links of where we've posted something or we want to engage in that Facebook group, for example. and we just know that we've got things going. So so there's that. Also, we use a social media program which allows repetitive posting as well. So again, if we want to put a constant message out there, we can literally just post it once and repeat that message over the next sort of, I don't know, 13, 14 weeks or something. And then just a reminder to actually go in and actually redo it in a couple of months' time. So we know that we've got a quarter's worth of social media content just being drip fed out if we want it. So
yeah. No, I think that's the other thing as well. When with social media is that repurposing. So and when I say it is repurposing. So if you take this as what we're doing here now, although LinkedIn has messed up, which is StreamYard has bumped it off. So I've just deleted that off of the thing. I'm still streaming into 2 places at the same time. I could have had 4, at this particular point. So I've gone across a whole distribution list with distribution platform within this last 15 minutes with me and you. You can then take the audio and drop that into a podcast. You can then convert it, transcribe it into text. It then creates posts. You can clip video, 15-second snippets of it. So this one post can be just redistributed. And again, that's a massive time saving, particularly on social media. Huge. So well worth looking into from that,
Yeah, and even using voice technology for blog posts. So actually recording it, getting it transcribed into Word or something like that, and then obviously changing the grammar slightly so that it's more, we actually see what, you see what it means rather than what's said. And then obviously you've got a blog article written as well. So there's so many different ways you can save time. I think sometimes you just got to think, do you know what? How can I do things differently? And if I can do things differently, you can get some successful results.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for me, I think we've done it to death on this, but for me, from some tips and tricks, you rule your world. So you know what you allow in from an actions, motions, energy, whatever it is, what to delegate, what you can reject, what you accept. It is your world. So own it, be brutal with it, and do the analysis, and you will have time. Don't ever say you won't have time, because you will. You've just got to analyze it. So yeah, is that it, do you think?
I've got one more for you, actually.
Go on then.
And that is the iPhone. I use the iPhone reminders so that I never miss anything that's important. So the car tax, so you're not, I remember years ago, I didn't tax the car, and I got a letter through the door saying, do you realize your car's not taxed? I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed it. I did. Now, I don't want to waste time having to go back over and feel, the feeling, having to explain it in the house, all the car's not taxed and everything like this. So, just to put a reminder in your phone, simple thing, even for monthly or daily tasks, just to remind you to do it can save you time, because obviously it gets you focused as well. And yes, it might beep at me, it might nag me, but at the end of the day, I know that it's covered and I'm not losing time. I've got time to invest elsewhere. That's probably what I should say.
I think to expand on that as well is that when you're looking in the sales and marketing side, we talk around CRMs. We did a discussion on CRMs. It's exactly the same in there. So you haven't got to think about it. Put the task so when you've next got to contact in, so it's in there and sends you an alert when it's coming time to do that task. Get back in contact with that customer. So there's loads on that. So yeah, quite a good point on that one.
Yeah.
I think we've done it to death on that. So yeah, pleasure as always, and we shall do it again in a week's time. Catch you later.